Hello, everyone. Very happy today for you to join us. I'm Brent Knipfer, Chief Architect at Alcor Solutions, and I'll be sharing a fireside chat with you. Excited again to continue these amazing knowledge-driven sessions, our series of insights called Evolve 21. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you, and without further ado, let me welcome and introduce you to our guest today. I'm with Alcor Solutions. So just briefly, we're a corporate platform service provider and a ServiceNow managed service provider. And I've had the privilege of working with some of the big four firms, helped move all of multi-million-dollar managed security services onto ServiceNow. I've owned the largest ServiceNow-centric platform in the world for over 4 years. That included SOX and NOX managed services. Recently led a solution design and implementation of security remediation services for the largest quick serve restaurant chain in the world. That's been in operations for 3 years, and we're about ready to go through a major evolution and release coming soon. I oversee architecture, service design, and creation of new as a service offers. And one of my guiding principles is to leap to the future with a product managed roadmap approach to achieve true business resiliency. I'm very proud to have received the President's Award more than once, both for working with the ITsavvy USA professional organization and a privately held managed service firm, CAI. So now I want you to meet our guest, Munu Gandhi. Please share your background, Manu.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. As Brent mentioned, my name is Munu Gandhi. I'm the President and Chief Operating Officer at ITsavvy. And I'm privileged today to represent the firm, who we are and what we do to all of you. So first, just a little background about me. I've had the privilege of being in the industry for 26 years, both as a client and as a solutions and service provider, working in the large enterprise, as well as supporting everything from SMB, commercial, enterprise organizations. So I'm privileged to be here today, and looking forward to the conversation around the new, better, and what happens in the post-pandemic world as it relates to technology and digital transformation.
Thank you very much, Manu. Let's dive right in. And first, I want to kick off a poll here for you in the audience. I'm going to kick it off. And the question is, do you agree that every company is now a technology company? We'll take a few seconds and take your answers. Okay, we'll end the poll here and take a look at our results. And what's most interesting, I don't really even need to share them because 100% of you agree. So Manu, why don't you explain what your observations have been during the pandemic now and why that really is a true statement?
Yeah, and so 100%, that's awesome. I think, Brent, what we saw when we went straight into the pandemic, we quickly realized there was really only two types of companies: those that were ready for the pandemic and those that weren't, right? And it became very obvious, right? Companies that were ready were able to get their employees fully productive in a remote type environment. They were able to engage with their clients through the channel and mechanism that their clients required. They were able to get products, services delivered to their clients. And they were able to engage in a conversation from a customer service, customer support perspective, in the ways that they needed to, so they could respond effectively to their clients, right? And then there were those that weren't ready. They weren't able to get their employees productive. They weren't able to get the orders from their clients. They weren't able to engage with them. I heard oftentimes, clients or consumers would call in to a call center, and they might be waiting hours to get on the call. And that was because those clients, those customers or those companies weren't able to get their contact center agents working from a remote perspective, right? So they had to work in a very reduced capacity. And so I think that one of the things that we learned is, yes, there was clients and companies that were ready for the pandemic and those that weren't. But the other thing we realized is that all of them were technology companies, right? And what we're seeing now, what we saw during the pandemic, and now as we're sort of coming out of it, is that every company is investing in technology. So if I was ready and I was able to engage with my clients and I was able to get my employees productive, I created a competitive gap between myself and those that weren't ready. And now I'm just doubling down and I'm investing more and more in technology so I can continue to be on the forefront of client engagement, product development, employee productivity. And then those companies that weren't necessarily ready, they're now investing just to catch up, right? And so it's an interesting kind of paradigm and type of a world that we live in now where everybody finally gets it. It doesn't matter whether the CEO or the janitor, right? Everybody knows that every company needs to have technology for the front and back office. And everybody knows that they need to make investments at a significant pace and drive capabilities that they now know they need because of this new world that we live in.
Yeah, thank you. Couldn't agree more. And it's certainly very difficult to run from a position behind. And many companies did not even realize what position they were in when this pandemic came about. Another question for you. In your conversations with the technology leaders that you work with, what are some of the common themes that you are hearing? You know, what themes have come to your mind over time? Seems that Manu's screen has frozen. Let me just share with you a few more facts. ITsavvy is a global company, and we're glad to have Manu here because they have created a number of templated solutions that are helping to really enable firms to do that catch up, to be able to get themselves into a competitive position and be able to address how they will adjust their business to be both digital and to address the macro business features that are happening because of the pandemic, dealing with their workforce wherever they are working, are located, dealing with their customers who now also have for large periods of time not been able to move about, not been able to come to business locations or even their work locations, but still required to continue their business. I'm hoping here that Manu will be able to get back into our panel, but we'll certainly while we wait a minute, let me put up another poll question here for us. This question is, what is the time to value expectation at your company? So I'm going to launch that poll. My own observations is it has been reducing almost year over year. So let's find what your answers are. Okay, we'll end the poll now and we'll share results here. Again, interesting, everyone selected the same answer. So although we asked about 3 months, 6 months, or a year or longer, every one of you said 6 months. And that is really in line with what I have been seeing for a number of years, that the expectation has been a year or less. Manu, we're glad to have you back. We asked the second poll. I did a bit of a summary about the scope of business of ITsavvy, certainly not, at the level we'd like you to share with us as we move along here. But the answer to the second poll that everyone in the audience gave was 6 months as far as the time to value. And I said that seems to be spot on with what I've seen for a number of years, less than a year. And to get it down to 6 months, we are talking about new challenges. So a question then to you is, what are these themes then over this time period that have really come top of mind for you across all the technology leaders you work with? Could you share some of those with us, Manu?
Yeah, thank you. I apologize everyone for the little bit of a hiccup there. I think the 6 months is a great number. I think what we're seeing when in our client conversations that we're having is that our clients are being asked to do way more than they ever have been, right? So they're getting the funding, they're getting a list of projects, they're getting a ton of a list of projects, right? And they're being asked to move as fast as possible in accelerating time to value to create those business outcomes that their internal folks are asking for. So we're absolutely seeing that. And so there's a lot of good news in that, right? I think historically technology companies or technology organizations struggle to get the funding, right? They struggle to get the right focus and getting people to want to engage with them. That's all changed in this new better. But where they're finding the challenge is that they still have a significant amount of legacy infrastructure and application. So there's technical debt, right? They have this kind of push of moving to the cloud, right? And the cloud is kind of a nebulous term that's coming up, and people feel as though if I go to the cloud, I'll get the capacity that I need and I can maybe go faster, right? And then there's challenge with resources, right? And know-how. How do I start to do all of these things all at once with all the challenges that I'm facing, right? And finally, while we've known that security has been, a topic of conversation for years now, it has come to the forefront, right? With all of the challenges that have come up, all of the attacks that have happened. And so, our clients are faced with a significant amount of how do I get there? How do I do this, right? And how do I do it in a manner without breaking what I have already today? And so I think this is where, Alcor Solutions, this is where ITsavvy, this is where the partner ecosystem comes in, right? And so, just a little bit of who we are. We've been around since 2004. We're about a $300 million company. We're a value-added reseller. We do systems integration, professional services, managed services, and as we look at kind of our world in which we play, the world, Brent, in which you and Alcor play, it is the combination of companies like us that bring know-how and expertise, right? That bring a set of solution blueprints that they have built with the partner ecosystems that they can bring to bear and say, hey, you have these challenges. Let us listen and learn to what your requirements are, right? What your timeframes are and what business outcomes you need. And then how do we leverage these solution blueprints, these designs, where we can leverage them and rinse and repeat, copy and paste, whatever you want to call it, right? But how do we help you accelerate time to value? Because we've done this, right? We've done this multiple times in multiple ways, and we can do this for you in a manner that delivers on your requirements, that does it in the timeframes that you're looking for, where we can bring the joint expertise that our firms have to partner with the client teams, right? And then we accelerate that time to value to deliver the actual business outcome, right? And that's one thing that we keep hearing a lot of is, how can you help me? I need support, I need your engagement, right? But I need to go fast because the pressures I'm facing, now that everyone knows that we're a technology company, I need you to help me deliver this value.
That's excellent. I'm glad to see it getting to the point where companies as a whole are adopting this blueprint or templated approach. Years ago, I helped craft the original bank in a box, credit union in a box solutions, and more recently, data center in a box. And we're talking about literal boxes, correctly? Some of you may know that Microsoft has finished piloting, data centers sitting in a container in the ocean, right? Unmanned, cooled constantly. And so, Manu, you shared some very interesting examples of some blueprints that your company delivers. I think one was cloud in a box. Could you share a little bit more about that and how it's delivering the value? So our audience can really take it down another level and recognize an area of pain, an area of challenge, delay and latency that they could apply the same principle to.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, so we developed a solution blueprint, as you mentioned, cloud in a box. We did it within our partner ecosystem. And really, it was after we had a number of client conversations where clients continued to say, when the pandemic hit, we didn't have enough network connectivity. We couldn't expand network bandwidth on the fly. We didn't have access to resources that we could bring on board very quickly, right? We don't have an ability to ensure that in a disaster type environment, in a business continuity type environment, we can maintain our operations in a manner that gets us back up and running quickly, right? And we heard this in a number of different ways through a number of different clients, quite honestly, in a number of different industries. And so what we kept hearing is, we don't want to be in the data center business anymore, right? And this is a trend that's been going on for quite some time. But the number of conversations and the number of situations in which we heard that was the demand signal was much higher than I think we had seen before the pandemic, right? And so I don't want to own data centers. I don't want to have my own data closets. I need to have access to the public cloud. Even though I might not move everything into the public cloud, I need access to it in a way that gives me low latency, Brent, as you mentioned, right? The ability to increase my bandwidth on the fly, right? And I need access to resources. And I want to get out of having to worry about power. I want to get out of the business of having to worry about a whole bunch of different things. And so we took that and we went to our partner ecosystem. With our partners at Digital Realty, at Dell Technologies, and at VMware, we built what we call Cloud in a Box, which is I can build a private cloud solution in any one of 200 locations across the globe on behalf of our clients. We can migrate them away from their current environment, and we can provide them a managed service overlay as and when they need it, right? And we can do this where we can solution their environment. We can give them a proposal in weeks, and then we can deliver it in less than 6 months, which is kind of that target number that we just saw, right? So from the time we take that first call to the time that our clients are up and running is less than that 6-month period. And this is that know-how. This is the partner engagement and alignment, right? This is the solution blueprint that says we can leverage something that's been built once and designed once in multiple times in multiple ways. And we've seen a lot of kind of client engagement and excitement around that.
That's excellent. Could you share a little bit more about I think there's much more to the story when you say engage the provider ecosystem. You did a great job here talking about downstream, right? ITsavvy, turning around and putting these solutions together, not with your people, in a closed room, but with your partners. Could you also share how ITsavvy, customers are leaning into ITsavvy, and even ITsavvy is part of a provider partner ecosystem of your clients facing upstream? I think that would also be very helpful to customers realize that we're talking about a pervasive use of partners in the vertical stack of value, bottom to top.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, kind of looking, like you said, downstream, right? It was really, again, you have these client conversations, and the client conversations provide insights, right? It's from those insights that you need to do something, right? Because you're getting signals that are saying, hey, I have a pain, right? Or I have an opportunity, or both, right? And it's in those insights as you gather that, and then you sit down within the partner ecosystem, because there are very few companies that can do it all, right? Even in our Cloud in a Box example, there's not one company that can do all of this, right? So it's stitching the fabric of that partner ecosystem that says, I know what is required based on what our clients are telling us, right? And let me bring the best of all of these worlds. Let me bring the best know-how from a Digital Realty that they know how to build and run co-location facilities across the globe. Let me bring the best of Dell Technologies and VMware, right? Let me bring the best of ITsavvy. And let me pull all of those people together into a room, and then let's build that solution fabric that we know is extensible, and it can enable all of our clients, no matter where they're located, right? No matter whether it's a small, a medium, a large, or an extra large, right? And so you do all of that, you bring it together, and you can build that solution blueprint like we've done with Cloud in a Box. Then it's actually then to your other side of it, right? If you go upstream, it's validating this and testing this out. Hey, we heard what you told us, client, right? We're now coming back and telling you, this is what we think we heard, and this is what we think your challenges were, and this is how we think we can enable value for you, right? Did we get this right? And if we didn't get it all the way right, what are the things that we missed? Because let's tune and tweak it up front before we do something, get it right, and then move forward with our clients. And so it really is, Brent, to what you said, right? Is how do you go, how do you bring that partner ecosystem in and stitch the fabric once you've listened and learned from your clients? And then how do you go back and say, hey, listen, we heard what you said, we've listened to you, we've now responded and brought the partner ecosystem in. We think this is what you're looking for. Can you confirm and validate, right? And when you do that, right, it really is a powerful way of engaging future clients.
Yeah, that's excellent. I also see with our clients a couple of other modes of operation that are becoming, de facto standards. And one is that you're bringing the partners, the tier one partners, those strong partners in areas, the clients are bringing them together, and you are collaboratively creating these solutions in the same way, right? It's not under one contractual umbrella or one entity, the larger value solution at the clients. And you're becoming intimately involved very early, in this annual planning, in this innovation idea scoping phase. And then another is that crafting, or solidifying the need for proper governance, controls, and executive steering. And that includes models where a service provider may be that proxy for the client, as they mature, as they move along their digital journey, where they may actually be in that governing role or in the QA, service assurance role that involves not one, but typically a number of partners. And it may include, firewalling off even part of their organization so that you get the proper checks and balances. And it's these kinds of more mature ways of thinking that are leading to, compressing the value, but also assuring value, over time, right? In that, you got it live, you get it stabilized, and that year over year drive, for continuous improvement, continuous, in all your metrics, the numbers are trending in the direction that the client needs them to move.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. I think, again, as we think about this new world, Brent, that we're moving to, right? As you do something like cloud in a box, you're actually, I talked about the legacy architectures and the legacy technical debt that's out there. This is actually giving our clients an opportunity to leapfrog from where they have been to get into an end state that is actually n+1 from where they're at, right? So if they're at, n-2 or n-3 or n-5, 6, 7, right? They're taking this opportunity to really say, I know I have to do something different. I know that what I've done historically won't work. And I'm going to take this shot that I have because the business is listening to me, right? And they're giving me money to actually take that leapfrog and get to that end state, which then enables them to do what you just said, right? More automation, more enablement, more understanding of the root of my environment. I can understand the performance of my applications. I can tie application and infrastructure and security together. And it enables them to do what you just said, which is I can measure my environment, I can manage my environment, I can evolve my environment much more easily than I have ever historically been able to do.
Yeah. And we did that poll about, when are our customers expecting value to start. We hit on 6 months. What's also interesting is the length of value they're expecting to get out of it is increasing, right? You're not solutioning for a year from now. You're solutioning ideally so that solution's still present in the 3 to 5 year time frame. It has the ability to keep progressing, keep evolving, but the core is there. We're going to go to our third poll now because it ties to this area around cloud and moves us along this discussion of digital transformation enablement as a result, macro as a result of the pandemic. But it's not the only reason. It exposed and forced clients to move forward. And this question is, what percentage of your infrastructure is in the cloud today? And we've got a choice of percentages. So I'll turn it over to you, the audience, and we'll see what you have to tell us. So those choices were, again, what percentage of your infrastructure is in the cloud today? We have a low of 10%, and we've got all the way up there to 75% or greater. Yeah, we've got everyone's answered in. So we'll go ahead and end the poll. In this case, we'll share the results out there so all of you can see them. So we do have a good mix here. I mean, basically balanced between the 25 and 50 with one party has gotten their organization 75% or more. So as we look at those results, Manu, I'd like to ask the question, have you share with some insights regarding these common, design approaches of multi-cloud or hybrid cloud? How does this play, over time in clients' mindsets and what they're able to achieve? And I'd like to hear from you and, what are clients achieving here, have achieved, did achieve as they can, what they were in that first group, they were ready. And what's the second group been able to do? Now we're heading towards 2 years of pandemic.
Yeah, so I think, right when the pandemic hit, because there was a challenge if you were internal and you had everything hosted internal to get that burst of capacity that you needed. I think there was that the pendulum maybe swung kind of a little bit further into, we're going to move everything into the public cloud, right? We want to have on-demand capabilities. We want to have access to resources when we want them, when we need them. And so what I kind of heard in those initial client conversations was, we're going to move everything over, right? I think as companies started to engage in making that happen, what we heard and what we saw was, again, it was very difficult to go from here all the way here. And the reality set in that, hey, whether it's really hard to move all of my applications and infrastructure over to the public cloud, or I'm worried about data privacy regulations or other compliance and regulatory hurdles, there's this understanding now that says, hey, I'm probably not going to move everything there. I'm going to move a certain portion, because a certain portion should be in the public cloud, right? Whether it's Amazon or Azure or Google or Alibaba or whoever else it may be. And then there's a certain amount that I know I want to keep inside, I want to keep internal, and I need to keep internal, right? So I think where you're getting to is a place that says there's a certain amount that I'm going to keep internal, whether it's for regulatory reasons, compliance reasons, cost reasons are a big one, that I'm going to keep internal, right? There's also a concern around where that data is, right? And ultimately, we all know that the data is becoming, if it hasn't already, one of the most important assets in almost any firm, right? It's how do you take data, how do you manage it and get value out of it that tells you how to create even better client and consumer experiences. This concept of mass customization and creating experiences, that's all data driven, right? So I think what you're going to see is I am going to need public, whether it's PaaS or infrastructure or SaaS, or I'm going to need that. And I'm going to need something internal, right? And this is where, something like Cloud in a Box is this really powerful platform solution, because we can move you into a private cloud solution in a co-location facility, right? That is very close, actually on-prem with all the public cloud providers. So you can have access to the bandwidth that you need. You can have the low latency that you're going to need, and you can go back and forth as you see fit, right? And so I do think we're in a world in which we're going to have a little bit of all of it. And we as partners and technology enablers, we need to figure out what's the easiest way to get them there and for them to manage it and maintain and support it, and then flex up and down as they need to.
Mm-hmm. That led right to something I've seen as well. Alcor, we have quite a large Oracle Cloud practice. We're talking, probably 50 certified people in cloud very early in this game. And they're coming on very strong. And one thing they've done is partnered with Microsoft, and now you can co-locate or near locate with a very fat pipe to achieve that zero latency, or even faster than you could ever pay for, by optimizing the Oracle on Oracle in Oracle Cloud, and then the Microsoft Azure components running natively in Microsoft Azure. And they've made that strategic commitment to their customers. So that, supports exactly your cloud in the box model of, the goals customers need is zero latency. They need to have, a very consistent, reliable approach to the solutions, not everything that's possible in those solutions, right? They need to get to those patterns. This leads to another question. I was wondering, as we move customers along this cloud journey, what are you seeing in regard to environments? Are they now getting closer to what they're running in the cloud to production? Are they getting beyond just one environment and to multi-environment? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, I think most clients that we talk to, right, they have multiple, so those are probably the ones that started a little bit earlier on the public cloud journey. One thing we are starting to hear more of is for those that are in a multi-cloud environment, they're asking themselves, should I be in Amazon and Azure and Google, or should I just be on one of the three, right? Is there while I want to have some level of competitive landscape and some level of best-in-class services, I don't have enough people to manage these environments. I don't have the know-how, right? And I would rather get into this rinse and repeat on application architectures and security architectures. And really, if I'm going to make the investment, should I go all in on one, knowing I might be sub-optimizing some of my procurement opportunity, right, in terms of creating a competitive situation, but I'll probably be in a better place because I am able to be more effective and efficient in just one location versus 2 or 3. So I think there's this, there's a very significant client conversation going on inside our clients, trying to challenge themselves on what makes most sense.
That hit on my next topic, which is really about the client mindset. How is their mindset changing? And you just brought a fourth dimension that I hadn't put down on paper, and that is, you're looking more holistic about the total cost of business and the maximizing the return that you can get and balancing that, because you do have to recognize the shortage and the scarcity of talent resources, and you do have to recognize the ramp up curve it takes for people to just get good and then become great and stay there, right? We all want the A team playing for us, but what are they operating, right? I mean, they could be great and you got a tiny little landscape for your company. You want it to be pervasive in running the entire organization. So it does involve that, what am I spending on procurement? What am I spending on my people? What am I spending on retention and on training? But all of this, those are cost elements that it comes back to, what am I getting? And am I getting to, the pennies per transaction or node or whatever a metric is, or am I tracking to a higher level of dollars per spend for the company on my products or my services? 3 other mindsets I've seen, I'd like to get your comments on. We'll take them one at a time. As leaders, they're forced, but of course, we want to get the best from our people, our process, and our technology, and we want to, save and retain the best of our culture, of what the company has become in their organization. So the first is projects to products. I think this is a mindset that clients are really coming to grip with. That whether you're delivering services or whether you truly have a hard product, all of them should have a roadmap. All of it should be roadmap driven and not project driven. Are you seeing that mindset taking hold?
Absolutely. Again, I think this is a once in a, let's call it a generation opportunity, right? The pandemic has shifted so much of people's perspectives that people are taking a step back and say, okay, yeah, I need to get stuff done. But it's just what we talked about a little bit earlier, right? I'm so far behind. Should I leapfrog, right? And they're really trying to take a methodical approach to make strategic decisions. So more around this roadmap conversation, right? I have this unique opportunity, funding, prioritization, focus. Let me do it right, and let me do it in a way that my first step leads to a known second step, which leads to a potential third step and a fourth step, right? And so I do think that we're seeing more and more of that. I'd say probably the early few months of the pandemic, it was a lot of reactive, which makes total sense. But they were just trying to get, people productive and the business functioning. And now they've had a chance to think about it. They are very, very much thinking strategically.
Yep. I sort of equate this to the grocery store analogy. You can have your great favorite grocery store, but if the one across the street remodels their grocery store, a good number of customers are going to go over there just because it's been refreshed, right? Just because it looks brighter, cleaner, new colors, and new labeling. And so we have to think about that too for our clients, right? It's not enough just to have a great thing. Over time, you have to keep in mindset of refreshing it. We have to keep up with how people are consuming things, more on their phone, less with reading, more with videos, as an example. I'd like to encourage the audience now to start thinking about questions you'd like to ask Manu, possibly myself, and start to enter them in. We don't have a chat turned on, but the QA is there. So click that Q&A and start to enter your questions as we move towards the end of this hour. The third mindset change then I want to talk about, we talked about that mindset change of looking holistically across the entire burden versus the value chain of where you're spending money, what you're getting. We talked about projects to products and getting to a roadmap. The third one that I'm seeing, I'd like to get your observations on, is applications to platforms. getting, we got to that point where it was like an all-encompassing suite. Then we got to this best of breed approach. I think we now have gotten to the place where we should really challenge using a single application in our organization with that mindset, that it's an app for that mindset, but rather it's a platform for the corporation. What are you seeing, Manu?
Yeah, again, I think a great insider perspective. We are seeing more and more companies wanting to move towards platforms, right? An all-in ecosystem that gets them the value that they need. And even if it's 80% of where they're at today with their custom environments and multi-application infrastructures, and if they can get to a platform and they can reduce the overhead and burden that it creates on them, that's exactly where they're looking to get to. I think period, full stop. And I know, a big portion of your premise, right, as Alcor Solutions is, how do you help people get onto those platforms, whether it's Oracle or ServiceNow or whoever? And it's just, they can't do this. And again, it comes back to and Brent months ago, which I think almost every day, is 40% of all people, once they think the pandemic is over in their mind, are going to look for another job. 40, right? And so now coming back to this discussion of, do we go to platforms versus our applications? You got to go with a platform that is going to be there with or without your current set of employees, right? And someone else is managing and maintaining that for you.
Yeah, this concept of platform also leads to, looking very hard at your business and saying, what part is critical? My IP, I must excel. That's part of the platform decision. The other is how pervasive is the platform that for the vast part of my business, it's good enough, right? It's fit for purpose. And then there's even the part you mentioned, you use sub-optimize, but still it's adequate, right? If I can get by, it's not core to what I'm doing, then I don't need it all even to be fit for purpose. And a platform by selectively, making the right fit of those 3 to 5 platforms for your company, we're convinced this is how companies not only going to thrive, but for many, it's what they're going to have to do to survive. We saw that effect, right? Whole organizations, it accelerated, some business models, to dinosaur stage and disappearing, right? We've seen whole chains just disappear off the face of the earth. This leads to the fourth mindset I want to discuss, and you brought the phrase up earlier, technical debt, right? I put custom work largely in there. You got to question that. So what are some techniques that you're seeing that your organization is employing, clients are using to remove technical debt, or even acknowledge and figure out what debt they have?
Yeah, I think it's, I kind of mentioned it earlier a little bit. Clients know that they're far behind, right? I actually think they're finally willing to pull the Band-Aid off and just say, it is what it is. We know that that's there, and they're gonna get this leapfrog done. And I think they're having a very honest conversation with their business to say that when we do things, certain things will be challenged. They may break, right? They may cause some sort of issue, but we have to get on the other side of this. Otherwise, we'll continue having this conversation tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and the day after that. And, Brent, you just talked about, how do we want to engage with clients, right? What are the channels in which we want to communicate? And how do they want to receive information, right? And it is video. It is, that engagement model is different. So if the client is saying to their internal stakeholders, if you really want technology to deliver these new experiences to our clients and consumers, you have to enable me to really rip the Band-Aid off this time. And that's going to require a change in processes on your side, right? It's going to require a change in kind of the mindset that your teams have of how they're going to work and engage, right? And it's going to, quite honestly, from an internal perspective, it's going to force me to do the same thing, right? And it's that crucial conversation that I think has never really been had, that they're having more and more of those.
Yeah, it calls to mind, most of us are familiar with the phrase and have an idea of what legacy means, right? Legacy systems, right? And at some point you are going to replace them. But people were thinking in multi-years, right? We might get to it. and recognizing that it was a monstrous effort and then never getting to it, right? As you say,
Yep.
it just covered it over, right? But now we brought this interesting phrase, technical debt. It's going to challenge us to define what that is and to have the analytical monitoring methods and agreement on terms to quantify it. Because how do you remove something that you can't define, scope, put into user stories, define in sprints, and get to a point where you actually turn it off, right? There's a huge cost to run systems in parallel, and most people are most of the clients I'm seeing, I'm not seeing that they don't want that anymore. They do not want a phased approach over 6 months, a year, where both systems are running, because you don't have the people, as you said. They don't exist. It's not sustainable. So you've got to come to a point where you've defined clearly what this is that's running your business, what those needs are, what's the stories and the phases, and get it funded, get it budgeted, get it over with. And so this is another reason to go to platforms, because with platforms like Alcor, on Oracle, on ServiceNow, we are very skilled at helping our clients quickly, we're talking weeks, understand what their technical debt actually is. Debt from the vendor, debt they've incurred, debt that came as a result of not having a product-driven approach, not realizing that you can't get the capability until you have the latest release. So they're, as you say, they are, they're multiple versions back, if almost not at the point of unsupportable software from the vendors. These are all things that become non-issues when you get to a platform, when you get to a grip where you engage your service providers downstream, collaboratively upstream with your client. You've gotten to agreed product roadmap, then everyone knows what their part is. You're based upon their strengths, based upon the areas of services that have been assigned to them. So this is a great approach. You've helped us to share, your experience. $300 million company. I see your billboards on 290 going to O'Hare Airport in Chicago. Yeah. So awesome. ITsavvy's out there, visible for all of you. I'd like to open this up to the questions then. Please put your questions in. We'll field those here in the last 15 minutes of our webinar session time. It's available. So if you'd like to fire those across, here's your opportunity to let a major VAR builder of these templates in a box solutions share with you his insights. Maybe at least one of you can fire in there, and I'll make sure that this is working here. I believe I've got it up correctly. So fire in a question and we'll be glad to field them. In the meantime, Manu, why don't you cover sort of the breadth of your client base, where they're at, their sizes, their industries, share with the audience. That might also stimulate some thinking.
Yeah, that'd be great. So again, as I mentioned, we're 17 years old. We're about 300 million in revenue, and we serve, commercial clients, enterprise clients, SMB, and public sector. And so, we have 4 main verticals: cloud and hosting, network and security, collaboration, and the remote workforce. Supporting those 4 verticals are 3 kind of underlying horizontals: managed services, lifecycle management, and field services. So we can take everything from, selling the hardware and the software and subscriptions through the integration of all of those components, all the way down to managed services and maintaining and managing those platform capabilities and solutions for you, right? We do also go to market with a number of partners around AI and RPA and data and analytics. And so we are very partner centric. We do believe in the value of the partner ecosystem. And as I mentioned, one of our key things is stitching the fabric of those partner ecosystems to build solution capabilities that we can take all in for our clients.
Thank you. And we got a question here for you, Manu. Dig a little deeper into Cloud in the Box. How is Cloud in the Box helping in cost saving?
Yeah, so great question. One of the things that we're finding, right, in the business cases we're helping our clients develop is there's a cost of the data center and the facilities, right, that they currently use and they host. There are real tangible costs that we can quantify. and then there's a significant amount of intangible costs as well, right? So we take all of those components. We take the cost of the network fabric that they currently have and the cost of those. So how much bandwidth they have, as well as the cost. And as you can probably imagine, when you move that to a carrier neutral facility, the cost of the bandwidth goes down significantly. The number of nines that you can add from a reliability perspective for that bandwidth goes up significantly, as does power and facilities uptime. All of those things go up. So again, there's hard tangible costs that we put into that, and then softer intangible costs that we can put into the overall business case as well. And then, just as we look at the amount of maintenance that they're paying, oftentimes they do have hardware that's appreciated. You take into account maintenance that they're paying, all the other components that go into the support. We can build a full business case for them that gives them the kind of the from and the to. And what we're finding is we can generally find a significant amount of cost savings, tangible and intangible. And most importantly, we're getting them to an end state that on a go forward basis, as they look at TCO, the total cost of ownership, they can see that come down significantly.
Yeah, I just did the 4 nines, and that's almost an hour downtime. No one's going to take that, right? You got to get, look what happened to Facebook last week, and that was service reliability, site reliability engineering, SRE applied, just a great engineer trying to run a command to determine capacity, and crushed them. So there's some discussion now about SRE at scale. Is that really a model that can scale, into these large organizations? And maybe a different approach, modified approach needs to be that you can't just take the Google SRE and apply it to every organization, as we saw from last week's Facebook crash. So we got, let's see, we got another question in here. Nope. All right. Well, had a great discussion here today. Just share a little bit more about Alcor, how we fit into this. We've got customers in over 40 countries. We are very focused in the pharma, medical, life sciences, healthcare industry segment, and we cross in that segment both the people and the animals that all of us are dependent on, either as our pets, our therapy, or our diet. And then we have another industry that we are equally focused on, which is the state, local government, higher ed. And when we say higher ed, we're really starting at the high school level and moving, up into all those advanced education communities. And really, if we take this industry approach, and maybe I asked that question, Manu, we're seeing with many of our platform providers that, there is a need to be horizontal in the platform of value, but we see over time they become also create the vertical industry expertise and tailoring. Have you seen any trends or adjustments in that, as far as balancing, that I really need to be an expert, not only just in this platform, but an expert in my client's industry, in their area of business, and what are you doing there at ITsavvy?
Yeah, I think, at the infrastructure level, we're still seeing the majority of our solutions are relatively homogenous across industries. And so while there are certain segments, I think higher ed is one of them that we can see, healthcare is one that we can see. A lot of what we do is pretty homogenous. And so again, the solution blueprints are relatively easily transportable from one vertical to the next to the next.
Excellent. So there you go. Again, a reason to heavily engage your partner community, because you may need both based on your business, right? You want that master electrician. He knows electricity. They're going to get done faster, better, quicker, more reliable than anyone else. And we all use electricity, right? So we heard that with ITsavvy. And then other aspects of your business, different models, right? Government, education, they run very differently. Private banking versus commercial banking would be another example, where you also need to get experts who are intimately familiar with that industry, those regulations, those terms, those business models, to get the the next 10%, 25% of value out of the homogeneous solution you mentioned. So you would need a couple of partners just there, maybe working in the same platform area, same business area, but one is bringing you that high efficiency and the other is bringing you the super effectiveness. So we'd encourage all of you to start thinking about your partners, have your named partners, engage with them strategically, be looking at the multi-year horizon and get them, we find nirvana for us is when the client asks us to get involved in their annual planning at the inception. That's where you're defining, what are we going to be doing typically 15 months out or longer, right? Because they're starting, 3 to 6 months ahead of when that money is actually going to be released to be used. And with the platform approach, the other value we see is you can even look retrospectively back through the open budget that exists, and you're looking for to bring this crowdsourcing, this collaborative, this multi-service provider, very intimately working together value. So you can look across these, individually budgeted areas or items and say, hey, where's the synergy? Where can I take a piece here, a piece here, a piece here, and fund something, crowdsource it across these budgets to create even more value for the organization as a whole. Any other closing thoughts, Manu, you'd like to share with our audience?
No, I just maybe a couple thoughts and maybe a summary of what we've talked about, Brent. I think, there is a new better, right? I think the pandemic, again, has shown us so much about what we need to do as a technology community, right? And as we look at our clients and where they are today, where they're they have, in my 26 years in the industry, I can't imagine a better time to be in technology, to be a partner to your clients. They are being asked to do more than they ever have been. They're being given more resources than they ever have been. And they really have this desire to get to the other side of this and leapfrog and enable and create value for their business, because now they are being asked to do everything on the front and back office, right? So there is no better time for our clients in technology, which means there's no better time for us as partners. And so it really is all about having client conversations that help you understand what they're looking for, get those client insights, and then from those insights, right, do something to create that client value. And I'm proud to be sitting next to you because I know you guys do this every single day at Alcor Solutions. We do the same thing at ITsavvy. And we're excited about not just 2021, but the next 5 years of the major opportunities that are going to come to create, to bring to life this new better for our clients and their consumers.
Yeah, I'd just like to close with 2 huge opportunities for our audience. It's been long recognized that the only time you can significantly change your position in the market is with a macro event. And often it's with a negative one, like the pandemic. You've got to go invest and put innovative things in place and then you can significantly change your market position. Otherwise, you're just arguing about percentage of the market and the position you're in. That's the opportunity before you. That's one. The second is Manu mentioned 40% of the people are going to move. All right. So set yourself up as the new attractive place for them to land, because some of these people are going to move. People, I say, always work for 2 reasons. One, they live where they work. It's about the geography, the place they've got their home, they call home, or they work to live, right? They'll go anywhere because it's the work they're interested in and they'll relocate. Well, I think we're going to see many of those 40% are going to now move to the place they want to live, whether it's back home, whether it's the kind of area, urban, rural, geographic, physical place they want to be. And so we have the opportunity, right? Working with our clients and our companies, become that place they want to come to, the place that will allow them to live where and how and when they want to work. So just realize that's another huge opportunity. 40% are going to move. So it's a huge opportunity to upskill, to attract people, to figure out what's the new normal in career paths and retention, skill retention. So we'll end it with that. Thank you, Manu. Very, very privileged and very happy to have you with us. I think we opened up some areas we didn't even think about, necessarily had on the agenda, but that's why we have these kind of sessions and these fireside chats, because when you get together and you talk about topic and you've seen it from different perspectives, often synergizes, the concepts and the approaches that are going to help all of us drive more value for ourselves and for our customers. So with that, we'll end the Evolve 21 session with you folks, and you have a great rest of the day, evening, work, wherever you may be. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brent. Take care, everyone.